Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. My name is Sarah, and today my co-host Carrie Bennett and I are going to be making these complex topics of quantum biology and circadian biology understandable to the everyday person. Thank you so much for tuning in. We ask that if you are listening on audio only, that you take a moment to leave us up to a 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube, leave us a like, leave us a comment. It will help to get the show out to more people. And before we jump into today's topic, just a quick reminder to head down to the show notes and check out my free resources as well as Carrie's free resources. We also do have courses on a variety of topics. If you are hoping to dive deeper, Carrie and I both have practitioner courses available as well for anyone who wants to begin to bring these topics to their clients and help them to implement these strategies into their daily lives. So check those out. We also have a co-taught course called Quantum Fertility that is available that allows people and practitioners to work on their fertility using these principles of quantum biology and circadian biology. Again, thank you so much for listening or watching today's show, whichever one you are doing. And let's go ahead and jump into it now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. Carrie and I want to talk today about our, what do we want to say, diet and exercise mistakes, or how would you phrase it that with today's topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think diet and exercise mistakes is fine. You and I have spent an extensive amount of time in the exercise and fitness world in conjunction, obviously, with nutrition. And our approach to supporting our body through nutrition and through exercise has completely shifted and changed, right? So, I mean, what are some questions that you get in your community, you think, around maybe exercise to start with?
Well, you know, a lot of people that come into my community are doing my leptin program, and they are very leptin resistant. And so I have to kind of pull them away from like high intensity interval training, spending hours at the gym, trying to hit 20,000 steps a day. Just like a lot of them come to me just overdoing it, like completely overdoing it, and feeling like they have to, if weight loss is a goal, that they have to exercise a certain amount in order to get to that goal. So, and you and I were talking before we hit record. I was, just like you, I was a fitness instructor for 13 years until the pandemic hit. And then everything, I just was like, I'm not going to go back to this. It just had stopped resonating for a while, but I lived in gyms, lived in yoga studios, had a trainer always, was always doing weights, was always teaching, was always taking someone's class. And I had this constant state of inflammation. Like I look at photos of myself and I had a very large lower half and the upper half was like smaller. So definitely some serious estrogen dominance. And I just kind of looked puffy all the time. And when I quit doing all of that extra and adopted quantum and circadian practices, like, boom, everything kind of fell into place. And it was like the doing less to get more type of a thing. So I know I just kind of threw a lot out there. What's your experience and where do we want to take it?
That's the most interesting thing too, right? Because our experiences are very similar in terms of fitness instructor, personal trainer since 2005, taught, I would probably teach on a minimum 3 fitness classes a day and still do my own workouts.
Lord. Yeah.
I was training people to run half marathons and running with them. I mean, like, and then also because I loved it, like this was so, I mean, I loved all that, but I enjoyed it. Right. And I would also play in a men's pickup basketball league 3 days a week. Like I look back at it like, what the heck were you doing? Cause very similar, right? Like if you were to look at my body, people would have been like, oh, she's very fit and strong. Right. But at the same time, you hit the nail on the head. There was this puffiness. There was this, I don't know. It almost felt like I don't even want to say fibromyalgia, but it just didn't, my body didn't, you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't feel like I was the way that, people would have assumed that I was based on how much muscle mass I had and how lean I looked at the time. And I just knew deep down that like, that wasn't a sustainable way, but I kept on doing it because I thought that in order to be quote unquote fit or to look fit. I had to exercise ton,
Yeah.
a ton.
Mhm.
And I know now that's not the case at all. And then, I mean, so I would say like one of the things that I've really appreciated about quantum biology and circadian health is I started to adopt, and again, this was also during the pandemic when my gym literally got shut down, right? I used to own a gym. Um, I used to walk, right? We
Yep.
started walking, and then
Yep.
we put up like a couple of things in our backyard, from kettlebells to a pull-up bar to some dip bars. I mean, like we had some stuff outside. And so I literally probably did 15% of the strength training that I had done, and then just walked a ton.
Mhm.
And I feel like my cardiovascular system is I feel like I feel fitter. Number one, I feel like I'm cardiovascularly. I'll sprint every once in a while. I'll get the intensity stuff with the weight training, but my cardiovascular system is great. My my muscular strength is the same,
Mm.
right? And I'm getting older,
Amazing.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't.
Mhm.
How old am I going to be this year? I'm gonna be 43 this year, right? In a month, I'm gonna be 43. And I feel like my strength is not diminishing in any capacity.
Mm.
I still can jump high. I'm athletic. I play sports with my son. He's 12. I mean, so like I do feel like my fitness is beautiful. I
Mhm.
feel great, and I don't feel puffy anymore. I don't feel
Yeah.
like that
That's
giant fish.
the puffiness is the thing,
It
like,
was,
that's
yeah.
what led me to do carnivore and it was like kind of like a fibromyalgia type of deal. It's like I was doing Ashtanga yoga, which is the call it the psychotic type of yoga because you're doing drop backs and doing all this stuff that's like maybe like a 12-year-old gymnast should be doing, but I was 40 doing it. And it was fun, right? But doing the 5 being at the Shala every morning at 5 a.m., then teaching my regular classes, then I was working out with Rob Jacobs. I was hitting the heavy weights, deadlifting, squatting, Olympic lifting, all of that with him. And I was just like, my body just kind of everything hurt. I was puffy and everything hurt. And I was like, I quit. I'm done. And that's when I did carnivore as like, I quit all exercise and I did carnivore. And I was like, okay, I can't, because I was in so much pain. I literally couldn't do it anymore. And carnivore helped tremendously, but the weight didn't go until I just kind of surrendered and started doing the quantum and circadian stuff and more walking and quit trying to just always do the like things that everyone thinks you have to do to be in shape, you know?
Right. And so we get this, I get this too in my community occasionally, where it's like, but I wanna do my really hard hour-long lunch hour workout or morning workout
Mhm.
because it improves my mental health,
Mental health. Yep.
right? And I thought that was the same. I thought I was
Me
the same.
too.
I thought I really
Yeah.
had to like beat my body up at the gym
Hmm.
so that I could get that kind of artificial endorphin burst
Hmm.
afterwards. And
Hmm.
and then you would quote unquote feel really good.
Hmm.
And I found that I could get that through light
Hmm.
signaling.
Yes, 110%. Like, don't mess with me in the mornings. I've got to get my light exposure. Like, that's it. And that has been the biggest thing. After, a lot of people know my story. I've been on SSRIs, benzodiazepines, sleeping medications, struggle with alcohol abuse, like the whole nine of like mental health issues. And I definitely have the trauma with the big T in my background to
Same.
exacerbate and feed into that stuff. A lot of the stuff I've been through in my life is like that crap can take you down. Light has been the thing for me that I feel mentally stable and that I don't need to use food, I don't need to use alcohol, I don't need to use exercise, I don't need to use anything to numb myself out or to get an artificial high or to get I'm not I don't think you and I are saying like that's bad, don't do that, don't sweat, don't exercise like that. I think I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of the point of like do you have to do that for your mental health? Like, or are we missing something, you know?
Exactly. Right. Do you have to for your mental health, or can you try maybe the light strategies? And
Right.
also, I think our muscles, something that I think is a misnomer, right? Like, yes, I'm a firm believer in maintaining strength and staying strong
Yes.
into
Yes.
old
As
age,
you
right?
age. Yep.
100%. Right.
Mhm.
But I also don't think people realize you don't get stronger during your workout.
Mm-mm,
That's where
mm-mm.
you provide the
Recovery.
stimulus that
Mhm.
your muscles need to repair and get stronger. But that happens in the recovery phase, right?
Yeah,
And I honestly don't think that I ever let my body recover
I
adequately
didn't.
when I was
Never.
strength training every single day, even if it was different weights or muscles. I find that if I do one or two, if that one, right, really good strength training session a week, and then I'm active and I'm, doing sports with my kids, we're swimming, we're out and about, I'm walking all the time. I find that to be really, really great because
Mhm,
I'm like I said, my strength. I've always been a very strong person, and my strength
mhm.
is not diminishing. I don't have to do the, super heavy bench pressing anymore, or the super heavy back
Oh god,
squats
I
or
did those,
deadlifts, right?
messed up my back so many times trying to put 200 pounds plus on my back. Like,
Right?
why?
Yeah, I
Why? What's
know.
the point of that? Like, you're
I mean,
100, 150. I was like 150, 160 pounds at the time. Why am I trying to squat 200 plus pounds? Like, that's just dumb. Like, why?
I know, and it's like I don't.
Fun. It
It was
was fun.
fun. It was
But then also,
fun.
like, I couldn't walk for a week because I threw my back out once. Like,
Right, right. My knees. It was my
no.
knees really
Oh
bad. I
yeah, my
mean,
knees would also.
I'm pretty hypermobile, and so I realize now it's like, but
Mm.
so yeah. I mean, I just want people to realize, like, yes, maybe you have this routine, but I think it's just been it's in the same way that like you have to follow like a certain diet protocol,
Diets.
right?
Yeah.
Like you have to
Yeah.
claim an identity to your
Strict.
diet, and like
Yeah.
you're a failure if you don't go to the gym, like you feel some shame or guilt. I started to give myself a lot of grace with that and
Mhm.
realize that
Yeah.
I was way overdoing it. And
Yeah.
I am leaner, fitter, and just as strong now. And still, and like honestly, if ever I show up for that basketball league, I still compete. I'm
Mhm.
one of the oldest people. I'm the only woman there. Only one with three children. And well, that's not true. I'm the only one who's birthed three children. um, but and I'm talking like competing against like these 20-year-old, early 30-year-old guys, and I'm still competing,
Yeah.
And so I don't want people to think like, oh, like they're throwing in the towel, right? I just think
No.
that I overdid it. And I think that's really what precipitated not only that puffy feeling, but I think it
Mhm.
precipitated 100% my adrenal
I was
fatigue.
gonna say the adrenal fatigue because that was the big thing for me is like my adrenals were a disaster. Like I just felt terrible all the time. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we want this to be inspiring for people
Mhm.
to think,
Mhm.
maybe rethink what their body needs,
Yeah.
because in terms of leptin, both low leptin and high leptin do
Mhm.
not do well with excessive exercise.
Mm-mm.
Low
Mm-mm.
leptin, your body is already in a state where it feels that there's scarcity and a
Lack.
threat.
Yeah.
Lack,
100%.
exactly.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so that state, all of a sudden, you're going to go to the gym and you break your muscles down, and then you want your body to actually think that that's not a stressor and then
Right.
dedicate energy to repair when you're
Right.
already in that lack. That's very challenging. And
Yeah.
then when you have a leptin resistance, that's another added stressor of a cortisol, right? Like, so you're getting competition for leptin signaling.
Yeah.
um
That's why I always say the AMPK pathway is broken in leptin resistance. And that's the biggest issue. That's why like you have such a bad reaction. Like now, if I go and I've been like eating the way I eat, which is pretty reasonable, right? But if I go out, like when Sarah was here, Dr. Sarah was here, we ordered this amazing seafood, had some fried stuff in it, some stuff that I normally would never touch, probably had some seed oils, whatever, like I'm gonna avoid that most of the time. But if you're gonna get something fried from a restaurant, it's probably gonna have seed oils in it. But I always now, when I do that, I would say 99% of the time, since I don't do it often, the next day I wake up leaner when I do that. And that is because I've repaired that AMPK pathway and I'm leptin sensitive. And so my body sees that kind of like a workout. You go to a workout, you break down muscle, and your body is like, whoosh, wow, yeah, good results. Same thing if you do what a quote unquote refeed. This is what bodybuilders do. They have a refeed day. For me, it's just like I'm going to enjoy myself at this meal and I'm not going to feel guilty or bad about it. And then the next day, I'm like, oh, I'm actually leaner today, like so. There are these pathways that work in our body, like the AMPK pathway, when you're leptin sensitive. But if you're super low leptin, again, it's going to be seen as too much of a stressor. You're probably not going to have a good result. And same thing with elevated leptin. And so that's why when you're really working actively to reverse leptin resistance, I know the way you and I both approach it is like, we're going to really dial in light and give you those light signals as a basis, like a light diet. If you want to have a sort of diet, let's focus that energy that you would do on all of your macro tracking and step counting. But let's just do it with light. Let's go to light,
Yeah.
and then we're going to make subtle changes. Like we're going to do try to walk.
Walking. I'm
If you
totally
just
fine with
I love
walking.
walking. Walking is great. But also don't do it with this energy of like, I have to walk, because I get these people too that they're like, okay, they quit the workouts, but then they're like trying to hit 30,000 steps a day. I'm like, oh, stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Your body
know.
needs to rest, my friend.
Well, your mindset too,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah. What are you running from? Like
right.
that's what are you trying to numb out? What are you running from? What,
Walk for enjoyment, walk for the pleasure, look at the trees, look
hear
at
the
the
birds.
flowers, hear the birds, right? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah. It's just a different way to view as opposed to how many miles do I need to run today, right? It's like, no, let me just move my body outside in fresh air because I want to.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It's such a different but here's the thing too, right? Let's create some balance. Also with this, there is such thing as being an active couch potato.
Mhm.
That's a legitimate thing that has been
Mhm.
studied in the research. And it
Mhm.
can happen in a couple of ways. It's like you get your 1 hour, like your
Of
hour long
workout,
walk
you
or
go
your
get on
hour
the
long workout
elliptical or
or
or your
even your
walk,
strength training, right? Like you get your hour at the gym and then you're sedentary the
sitting.
rest of the day.
Yeah.
That actually, the research on that shows that you're not getting a big benefit from that particular workout, because it's not about being active in just that one burst of time. It's about being
All
active
day.
throughout the day. So
Yeah.
something that I will incorporate that I've loved to do. I've been doing this since I've had kids, right? Because I found it very challenging to get a workout in, like a short,
Mhm.
true, like what people would call like your 30-minute workout.
Right.
I do bursts.
Mhm.
Like, like you just sprinted to, let someone in through the gate
Yeah.
in your house.
Yeah.
I'll drop to the floor and I'll just do push-ups to fatigue, or I will decide all of a sudden that I want to do a bunch of lunges or squats or
Mhm.
burpees, or, like I do this burst stuff throughout the day
Mhm.
and I love it. It's enough to create like a bit of a cardiovascular, a
Mhm.
heart rate burst, enough to feel some burn, to challenge my muscles in like that short duration of time, not enough to be like that excessive 45-minute, workout every single day. Right.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
feel like my body really responds well to that. And
Mhm.
it keeps me active all day long, and walking, like if you want to do it, split your walks up.
Yeah, that's what I
Right.
did when I really, because everyone's like, I didn't ask me anything, and then I had my team put them together. These are the questions I got. That's this is half the questions I got on Instagram over the weekend to record an Ask Me Anything episode. I'm looking at this paper like, oh my God. But so many people want to know, like, the period where you were able to lose like 30 pounds in like a 6-week period. What was your exercise routine? What was your eating routine? What was this? And I'm like, as a baseline of all the circadian stuff that I had been doing. It was my body was like, boom, oh, I get it. I get it. Like this is a new program and I love it. And what, like you said, walking in bursts of the day, walking at sunrise, right? Walking in the middle of the day, walking in the evening with my family, doing a sunset walk. I was walking like 3 times a day, and I don't think it was excessive. And I was doing the circadian stuff and wearing the blue blockers, and my appetite was naturally adjusting because I needed to lose the weight because I was fixing my leptin. And
And
then,
you ate breakfast, right? You
yes,
consistently ate
for
breakfast.
the first time in like forever, years, probably maybe even 10 years or so, I was eating breakfast every day. And so my appetite was a lot more regulated. My energy was more regulated, and the weight came off. And here's the other thing about people with weight loss: you do have to be a little bit hungry if you want to lose weight, but you don't want to be hangry. Like there's a difference between hungry and hangry, because to think you're just going to be 100% like comfortable all the time, like if you want to lose weight, you have to sometimes be a little uncomfortable and sometimes say no to things and sometimes be just a little bit hungry, but you don't want to be hangry. You don't want to have your cortisol spiking. You don't want to be a disaster. So there's kind of like I don't know. There's a little bit of a fine line that you have to learn to recognize, but all the stuff that with the circadian health and the light makes it so much easier for me. I don't know
Oh
what
yeah, I feel
you
the
thought on that.
same way.
Yeah.
And so that's, I mean, I feel like naturally based on maybe having like my son, things like my son's track meets
Yeah.
after school that last forever. There's not a thing at the concession stand that I want to eat.
Right.
So naturally, there's days where it's like, okay, so 2 o'clock is my last meal.
Yep.
I'm not ignoring, like you said, ignoring hunger signals or getting hangry. Maybe I'm like, could I have a little something?
Yeah.
Maybe just out of like the idea of boredom more than anything.
There's clock hunger too. Like your body's used to eating at certain times of the day. And sometimes you're like, am I actually really starving? Or is this just like a clock hunger? Like, oh, I
Right.
usually eat at this time. And this is what I do. And so there's
Oh,
that too.
well, that's what I mean, I literally, when I was in that phase of over exercising, I was also, in the eating every 2 to 3 hour
Yep.
one, making
Mhm.
myself hangry and thinking that I had sped my metabolism up and really not realizing how much I dysregulated leptin and so many other things probably as well. Yet at the same time, it's like, yeah, so that type of a transition, it's like, yeah, so we typically do want to eat as a family in the evening,
Mhm.
but if there's a day that I can't,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's how I naturally do a lot of fasting. Not a lot of fasting, but that's how I naturally fast is like, I'll eat and my son gets up from his nap and then my daughter's home. And then it's just like we call it the Bermuda Triangle. It's like total chaos. And then everyone's in bed at 8 o'clock, 8:30. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't get time to eat dinner. I'm gonna fast because I'm not gonna eat at 8:30 at night. Like, and I don't do that every day, but it probably happens at least once a week, twice a week, where
mhm.
I'm like, oops, I just got super busy. But I'm fat adapted too. So my body knows how to switch between fuel sources. Like I can go in and out of ketosis. And it's not super stressful for my body, So there's
Well,
definitely that as well.
and you've nourished your body earlier. Like that's the thing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I'm going to say this again. I know I've said this before. There's three signals your body wants in the morning. It wants to know the time of day, where it is on the planet, right? Which it does tapping in. You ground so that you actually can tap into Earth's geomagnetic signal. It literally geolocates you.
Yep.
And then you want to, the body wants to know that there's nourishment. It's that
Yep.
it's nourished. You satisfy those three things first thing in the morning, a lot of other things naturally line up and fall into place. And your body, because you nourish yourself, your body doesn't think, oh no, she's trying to starve me.
Right. Exactly.
Some of these things that you hear right on social media of, oh, you're starving yourself, like everyone is starving themselves. And
Everyone's
like,
diagnosing everybody with a friggin' eating disorder on social media, and like
I find that,
inappropriate. Like, find a better word. Like,
well, yeah,
yes, there's stuff that I completely disagree with on social media. I'm like, oh my god, that is not a good eating regimen to be advertising. But like, I'm not going to go diagnosing anybody with anything. It's none of my damn business. I'm just going to
right,
say, no, that's not. That's
right.
not how I
Right.
do it.
Or like, comparing, calorie needs to people who maybe have literally been in concentration camps and things.
Right. Oh God. Yeah. No,
It's
that's
like,
not
it's such
even,
a
it's not
different,
applicable. There's no, yeah, that's not
yeah, you're not, your
your
life is not
average.
being threatened all the time, right? Like such an apples to oranges comparison. So that's why I'm like, my favorite thing is to give the body its safety signals first thing in the
Mhm.
morning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I,
And if
ex-
you're like, so I've been like digging into the whole haplotype thing as well. And when you're in this high solar yield environment, um, you don't need as much, I hate to say, you don't need as much food if you're in a high solar yield
if you're
environment,
taking
grounded,
advantage
if you're
of
taking
it.
advantage, not if you're in an air conditioned office or home all day. Yeah, you're going to need to eat more, right?
Mm,
But that's
yeah.
kind of what I've been digging into the haplotype and diet and food stuff. Like Ryan Carter, what is his name on social media?
Live vitae.
Levite. He got blasted on Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, the other day because he's a big dude, very muscular, very healthy. And he says he eats like only when he tracked it, he only eats 18 or 1900 calories a day. And then somebody jumped down him and was like, that's a sign of a really unhealthy metabolism. You're gonna die. And just like you need to be eating sugar 6 times a day and just He
That's
was
why I hate
like,
talking about diet.
I do too, because people just get so crazy. I'm like, look at the man. He's clearly healthy. He clearly doesn't look like he has any sort of metabolism issues. He's
He
living,
lifts heavy weights. I mean, for his
he's
body, he loves
tan.
doing that. He's tan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's tan. He lifts heavy weights. He's grounding every day. He's walking the walk, like legitimately walking the walk. He knows he doesn't need to be eating sixth, seventh. And Mark Sisson's been talking about this lately too, of like people who are like, I eat 7,000 calories a day. He's like, what are you doing to have your body require that much energy? Like you don't need to, no one needs to be eating that much. So, Carrie, what is the biggest thing you would say with people and red light therapy panels that doesn't get talked about a lot?
So many people talk about how inconvenient it is to kind of set them up. And sometimes they just want to put them directly on their body, and you really can't
Mhm.
because of the non native EMFs.
Yeah, exactly. That is why we are both so excited that we have these little battery operated bond charge panels. You can put them right here on your skin, and you're not going to be getting all that non native EMF. You can set it up for your kids, put it right next to them, and you don't have to set them up in front of a big panel and make them sit 6 to 12 inches away, right?
Yeah. So, like when my kids have stomach aches or things, that is my go to. I pull out that panel, I lift up the shirt, I just set it on them, and they could still be reading, coloring, doing what they're doing while at the same time getting the red light therapy, like you said, in a very kid friendly way.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of parents just even put them up on the ear when they have ear infections, earaches. It is just so, I mean, I'm just doing it here on my ear right now. It feels so good. So,
Mhm.
these are absolutely fantastic. You can use the code Quantum Pod, all one word. There'll be a link down in the show notes to save on yours. And these are from Bond Charge. So if you are someone who just wants the convenience of a red light therapy panel, doesn't want to worry about non-native EMF, you can just put it right on your skin and get skin healing benefits as well as infrared that can penetrate through and actually provide some mitochondrial support as well. These are absolutely fantastic. So check the link out down in the show notes and use the code Quantum Pod to save on yours.
Well,
Yeah.
people don't realize that when you eat like that too, what naturally as the body breaks down the food into the electrons and sends them to the mitochondria, right, to the electron transport chain, you're naturally going to be creating reactive oxygen species because metabolism is not
Exactly.
100% efficient. So at the
Right.
same time that you're, as you're eating, you're going to get potentially bursts of ROS, which isn't necessarily a bad thing unless you're overdoing
Right.
it.
Right. Exactly. I think on the whole, people are, they just, someone was like, I did a post about fasting yesterday, and someone was like, someone says you need to eat carbs before bed or you're not going to sleep, and you need to eat carbs several times a day and all this stuff. I was like,
Doesn't make sense.
that is based on somebody who lives in an air conditioned, behind glass life, period. You are not just supposed to only get your energy from your food. If you are having, like, and here's an example. Like, I know I'm going off on tangents, but I'm here in the office. Obviously, this is a blue lit environment. I've got non native EMF around me. When I was recording, so ironic, when I was recording my practitioner course, the Leptin Master Plan, I was eating more, and I was sitting in this office surrounded by all this stuff for like 6 hours a day, sometimes more, because I was also like research, it's like just really pouring my life into this course for 3 months. I was eating more, I didn't feel as good. Even that, I was just pouring myself into it. And then it's like, duh, like you're creating this whole course about leptin and you're wrecking your leptin by putting yourself in this environment. And so, yeah, I'm just like creating all this inflammation from sitting here. I know that, but I think people don't understand seriously what kind of an impact that has on your metabolism, period.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just because the way that we think that we get energy, the only way most people think
Food.
that we get energy is food, right? Like, I
Right.
mean, Arturo. So I encourage anyone who's interested to read Arturo Solis Herrera. Da-da-da-da, let me find the book,
The book.
man.
I got the book too. It's in here somewhere.
So this is called the
Yes.
Melanin Master Molecule, right? All it is really a compilation of the majority of it is a compilation of a lot of his published research, but it's
Mhm.
extensive.
Yeah.
And I mean, melanin, there is some legitimate information and research in here to indicate that melanin can provide several tissues in our body 90 to 99, he's even saying, percent of the energy that they need to function optimally. But melanin needs light, right? It needs the light
Mhm.
signal. There's
Mhm.
also, I mean, there's
Sunlight.
well, have you looked at his research on this came up in the quantum biology collective certification Q&A the other day, and I haven't talked about it publicly, but I just reminded me of it. Like, have you looked into the work his work on hemoglobin
No, I haven't.
and how hemoglobin can dissociate a water molecule as well to
Oh.
give oxygenation and molecular hydrogen to the tissues?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I've looked at that a little bit, but I'm sure
I
you can
know.
explain
I'm
a
just,
lot more.
but it's one of those ones where it's like he's arguing that, and I've seen arguments like this. Tom, right, in Tom's course about breathing and oxygen, it's like we don't even understand the gas exchange, right, from the air into the lungs. Well,
Right.
there's indication in Arturo's research that we breathe to exhale carbon dioxide, but really
Mhm.
oxygenation should be continuously happening through hemoglobin breaking the water molecule that surrounds it. So it's fascinating. So again, another thing where you're just like, oh, so like just we have to rethink these assumed truths, right?
Know this much, like literally.
Right.
I
We
mean, I'm going back. I'm doing my research for through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. I'm recertifying myself as a nutrition therapist, and it's so jacked up. Like I keep all these quizzes that I have to take to pass and move to the
oh,
next.
it's the
I'm
worst.
getting so mad because I'm like, that's wrong, but I have to give you this answer so I can pass the stupid thing, so I can get the stupid
I
certification, just so people can
know.
actually be like, oh, she doesn't have any education on nutrition. Yes, I do. Like I've studied it extensively, but like I have to have this stupid certificate so that I have some credibility.
Somehow people that's I know. That's
But
such a
that's like the whole test is so stupid. I'm like, thing on alcohol was getting me really mad the other night because I was like basically saying like, there's the health benefits of alcohol are maintained around how many drinks per day. I'm like, zero. None. There's zero health benefits for drinking any alcohol. None.
I
Like, oh,
I remember so before my husband started his own firm, I remember having to go through. He's got our insurance, right? And so I
yeah.
remember having to go through like the company would you have to go through this company software of like answering questions. And the first year, it was like, how often do you eat saturated fat? Daily. Like I was answering all these questions, and then I failed.
Yeah, I
I
know.
failed the health quiz, and I
I
had to have
know.
some lady. I had to have a phone call with some lady who had to coach me up on my nutrition and was telling me I had to eat more pasta and bread. I was like, just be patient with her. She's doing her job. She's doing her job.
I know. I
It's
know.
like,
That's
how
how.
many grains do you eat during a day? Like rarely, right? Like rarely. It's not never, but rarely.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think people that watch this and that are invested and are in this community listening to this, they know like how backwards
I
everything
know.
out there is. But
Look at the
like,
random comment. Listen, if you're listening to this, it doesn't resonate with you. Don't leave a comment. Just go.
just go to the next video,
Yep.
scroll on by. It's
If you
okay.
want to leave a comment about me taking a basic physics class, just go. I've been there, done that. Newtonian physics is boring. It's thanks.
It's fine because I think what we're really trying to accomplish with everything we put out there is just empower people to look at health differently, and diet and exercise is a big part of that. And I just see that I get so many people in my group, like the way that we run our groups is a little different. I kind of envied Carrie because she just like does the Zooms. Like I'm every day like answering the questions, and like Dr. Sarah and I are on WhatsApp, and I'm like, did you see that one? Can you do that one? Like I can't, because it's like constant,
It's a
because
lot. Yeah,
I
sure.
want people to. It's really hard to get people to grasp this stuff.
So it's
And
nice to be able to point them to a resource like this video to be like, listen to this video, absorb the information, right? And
it hurts my heart because I see people in a great amount of pain and
totally.
suffering over this stuff. Like the exhaustion level is very high. And I think that the overarching message of this episode, and just really the podcast in general, is like learning how to work smarter instead of harder with your life, and enjoying things. Like we maybe this is a separate episode, but we were talking about nervous system regulation, and you and I both recommend people to Irene Lyon. I've heard great stuff about primal trust, and there's great things that have helped people in my group too, that they've gone through them, and it's been a very big compliment to a lot of this work. But if you really do this work and you're really outside and you're really doing the walks without listening to podcasts and constantly trying to pull stuff in, like you just allow yourself to listen to the birds and feel the light and ground and do these things, that is very, very helpful and supportive to the nervous system.
1,000%.
And it can do so much for you. You don't have to, like, what I used to do with workouts. I got to do 10 reps, take a 90-second break,
Timer.
12 reps, and then move to this, and then do this extensive program to get nature doesn't work that way. Like it doesn't, and our body doesn't work that way either. We just think we're so smart as human beings that we have to do. That's been the thing that Dr. Sarah has been like in my WhatsApp. There are no protocols. Stop asking for protocols. Like,
that's where some people, N equals one,
guidelines. There's things that were like, do this, but like, they want, like, I need a morning sunlight protocol. I need a protocol for this and protocol for that.
Go outside, naked eyes, grounded if you can. There's your protocol.
Open your door, take off your shoes.
I get it. Well,
I get it too, because it's how our society wires us. Yeah, it does sound too good to be true.
But I just, the way that I want to coach people is to hear their own inner voice as well. Because your inner voice, like it's sometimes when I will work with people, it's like I'll kind of reflect back to them what they said,
Yes.
and it's like they can start to hear what sounds supportive and hear what their body needs based on just some appropriate questioning back to them. And so I want people to like, it's like my Dropbox is here, right? This is where I get like this is where my intuition talks to me right here. And I want people to find where in their bodies and how their own intuition is speaking to them, so that they don't have to come to an expert, a guru, whatever it is, for an answer. They can kind of sit with themselves and just see how it feels in their bodies. It's like, well, should I do this 5 a.m. workout? Okay, well, ask yourself, what does it feel like?
What does your intuition tell you about that?
Right. Yeah. Is there not, or maybe if you skip it today, let's see how it feels. Right. And like kind of weigh the differences. And I just feel like that's where I want people to get, right? Because that's where I finally am. I was looking for protocols. I did elimination
100%.
diets and supplement protocols. I did that. So I get it. And I'm just so much happier now that I can just open my cabinet, which has nowhere near the amount of supplements these days, and be like, oh, I'm going to take these cell salts today because that I think is what my body is calling out for.
Yeah. I'll be like, oh, today's I'm going to take methylene blue. I maybe do that once every 3 weeks. I did it the other day because I was like, I think I want to take some methylene blue and lay in the sun and cold plunge. Like, okay, that's what I want to do today. Just felt like I wanted to do it. There was, like, I'm going to hop on a plane in a couple of weeks to go to Miami for a couple of days to be on a podcast. I'm going to bring some hydrogen tablets with me and probably methylene blue to help me travel. Right. But like, it's more intuition and like, and I don't take magnesium every single night, occasionally I'm like, oh, I think I need some magnesium. It just, I can kind of intuitively feel what I need.
For me, it's when my body needs, I now know this. So my body wants magnesium, it asks me to take a bath. And then I just dump the magnesium into it. Right. And I don't take a ton of baths in this. I don't typically take them in the summer a ton, right? Yeah. Because it's, but I know as soon as in the summer, a bath is being called for, I'm like,
you need magnesium. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny. Like you say that, because I haven't been doing as many baths either, because it's so dang hot here, but yeah, in the wintertime, pretty much every night is a magnesium soak, but summer, I don't seem like I need it as much,
You're just working within what your body, you're in tune with what your body wants and needs, right?
Right. Right. And that's possible for everyone,
oh, totally.
And where we come from, I know both of us, is not a place of judgment, because we don't live in that vibration of judgment. It's more of like, hey, like, we want you to feel this too. We want you to know this is possible for you too, to have this vibration of joy and peace
trust
and
in yourself,
trust in your body. And the biggest thing that comes to me that's just been a revelation for me lately is that wonky labs, symptoms, inflammation, all this stuff is not something you need to go chase a diagnosis for necessarily. It's a sign that you are not living in alignment with your environment. That's not you're not in a you're, or you're not living in environment in alignment with the environment you need to be in. Like something is causing this for you, and you need to investigate, you know, what's going on here. Am I in a bad relationship? Am I eating crappy food that doesn't work for my body at this time? Am I not getting light? Am I not where what am I missing in the foundations for myself? It's not necessarily a supplement or medication or something that you need to be chasing down. It's you need to be asking the questions about your life on a daily basis. What are you doing on a daily basis that's creating this misalignment that's showing up as a symptom or a wonky lab? Like yeah, it's a different
And
way of thinking.
And if you sit down and listen to that, and if something comes up and they're talking about past traumas or stress, like past stressors, traumas, capital T, lowercase t, if that keeps coming up, then there you go. That is your resonance antenna pointing you in that particular direction.
Mhm.
If it's something along the lines of like you keep thinking about, oh well, like you said, a relationship, if that's what keeps coming up, there you go. So for some
Mhm.
people, they recognize that they do feel like their body has a toxic burden. Well, there's ways that can be supported as well.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, but like sit with it and just ask
Mhm.
your body. I
Yeah.
don't know if this helps anyone. This will probably get me blasted by a lot of people, but I don't know if anyone's read Dolores Cannon, but her
Oh, I've been
daughter,
listening to her lately a lot.
her work was so fascinating. It's going
Yep.
to maybe upset a lot of people, but her work was so fascinating, and I love what her daughter Julia has taken forth in terms of like when part of your body has symptoms. What it basically is a message, right? It's a
Yes.
message that your body
Mhm.
is trying to tell you.
Love
There's
that.
other ones. Louis, that's kind of builds on like
Please,
Louise
hey.
Hay,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
your body keeps score. I mean, there's a lot of interesting work on that stuff that's been done. I just want people to kind of sit and be like, okay, stomach, what are you trying to tell me?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
like it sounds so stupid until you actually start developing that relationship. Like we've developed a relationship with light and water. It's like I developed a relationship with my body as well to know that when my shoulder is acting a little creaky, I know what it needs,
Mhm.
right? I know what it's trying to tell me. I know, so it's just asking the question and listening.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's very divorced from what we are kind of what's beat into us, because of consumerism, because of big pharma, big food, whatever. Like, we don't even have to get into all that, but there's a lot of messaging that we're constantly being fed all the time uh, through everything. Go to the store, open up your like whatever.
Or
It's
you need an expert, you need an expert, you need an expert, you can't
consult with the
possibly know,
experts.
right? You need an expert. It's like you are your own expert.
Everything in our society is set up that we're outsourcing our health or our intuition or you name it to someone else. You need to pay this person for this. And that, not to say like you don't occasionally need to have a second set of eyes looking at things, right? Like that's helpful sometimes, but like you don't have to outsource your whole life to someone else or your health, really. It's
Totally.
yeah, it's a different way of thinking. And it can be scary at first, but then I think it can be really empowering at the end of the day that we don't necessarily need to follow someone else's protocol. Like we can create our own, we can look at guidelines and then kind of create routines that work for us. That,
100%.
you
That's
know,
exactly what it is. I think it was maybe Jackie Chan who even had that quote of like, you know, take what other people say, or look at what other people say and are doing,
mhm,
keep what resonates with you basically, and then
yeah,
discard the rest. And that's
mhm,
okay. Right. That's pretty
right,
much that sums up the past 10 years of my life, basically.
exactly.
You
And
know,
always like look at something I do just because I have this really long history with addiction and numbing out is I have to, and I'm constantly doing it and I'm not perfect for sure. Like look at something and I'm like, am I doing this to run away from something else? Is there something that I'm not dealing with that's making me uncomfortable? That's making me do this? Because, like, yeah, I'm not perfect. I do get on my phone too much sometimes. Like, I do Like I've been rewatching Game of Thrones. Don't ask me why. I just like my husband's like, why are you watching this? I'm like, I don't know. It's familiar and I know what's going to happen. And I'm just like needing like that tape to play in my head. Like there's always a reason why we're doing stuff, you know? And I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe it's not a positive thing for me to be doing. Maybe I need to go read a book instead, you know,
Well,
like
but you're aware of that and you're asking yourself the
self,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
self inquiry. Like,
Well, if
maybe I
people
don't
don't
need to
know,
be watching people get their heads chopped off. Like that's probably not a good, you know?
right. Right. When I wake up in the morning, and I don't think I actually knew that I was doing this
Mhm.
until, much more recently. But when I go outside and I earth in my ground and I say my gratitude, my prayers, kind of set an intention for the day, at the same time, I ask my body what it needs.
Mm,
What's going to serve it today? And
mhm.
I just know now that my body will let me know. And it might not be right away, but it'll let me know. And so, like, if you just have to just make that an opportunity, right? Give your body an opportunity to express what it needs, and it will.
Yeah, I agree. So hopefully
So there's
this
a
is,
diet and exercise one, really. We always get off track.
I know we do.
So for exercise, let's summing up exercise at least. It's
Yeah.
like maybe
Yeah.
less is more.
Yeah.
Maybe you can work with that and listen to your body. Maybe you can take time in like walking in nature as a means of feeling better for better mental health,
Mhm.
as opposed to feeling like you have to, really work hard and beat yourself up at the gym in order to get that.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And same thing with diet. Like I basically in my leptin protocol for people, I'm like, look, breakfast is a non-negotiable. If you're not okay with eating it, if it's really hard for you, do the light stuff first and try to have a little something like and build up. Don't try to do it all in, one day, 1 week. Don't expect everything to shift in 1 day or 1 week. It's slowly you change this, you hit your protein goal, and then you adjust based on the other two carbs and fat based on like your goals and your blood sugar regulation. That is all adjustable, but just like protein goal, breakfast, start there and keep it very simple. And I guarantee you, if you get the signal of light back in your life, that there's so many, I kind of call it as an adaptogenic. Like I had a lady yesterday who's like, I'm more hungry now. I'm doing all this. I'm like, I don't like it. I'm like, well, you might have been undernourishing yourself. It's quite possible, you know. Um, just do those things first, and then a lot of the other stuff will you'll be able to tune in and say, maybe I don't need to have 6 meals a day. Maybe like your body will adjust.
Totally. Well, yeah, because their body is designed to respond, right,
Yes.
to the signals in the environment. And if just listen to it, like as you're realigning back to your environment and you're tuning into those signals, then listen to what your body has to say. Oh, now I want
Mhm.
to go to bed a lot earlier. Or
Mhm.
gosh, I know it's 4:30 in the morning, but I can hear the birds chirping and I've already had 8 hours of sleep. So, I feel good about like don't necessarily judge something as pathological. Just
Yeah.
kind of listen to how your body's going to responding
Mhm.
when you give it the coherent signals. That's the thing about the nervous system. And I know we have to go in a second, but that's also the thing about the nervous system that I found so fascinating is that when the main signals that our nervous system is keying in on is our environmental signals.
Yep.
So
Yep.
when you when you're in an environment when the light isn't flickering at you all the
Yep.
time,
Yep.
right, when you are earthed, right, which actually helps you tap into nature's signals a lot better.
Mhm.
When you're just like you said, when you're in natural sound environment where you hear the birds chirping or the wind moving through the trees, like that goes such a long way in terms of
Yep.
helping your nervous system regulate itself.
Yep.
And
It
yet
does.
then yes, there's additional tools like you said, like people like Primal Trust or Irene teach, like there's additional tools that people can have in their toolbox, but at the same time, that is foundational.
Yeah, do the foundational stuff and you might surprise yourself with how much that can help. On this show I haven't opened up about my past and all the stuff I've been through in my life, but like there's been a lot. Like you live this life
Same.
for a certain amount of time. I'll be 45 next week. You're going to have some stuff. Like you're going to have some stuff and I've been through years and years and years of therapy and all this stuff and it's like a lot of times the simpler stuff has been the most impactful for me in becoming more emotionally regulated and my nervous system regulated and all of that. It's really been the more simple stuff and not the expensive time consuming drills and exercises and this, like
Gadgets. Yeah.
gadgets and because you're outsourcing, you're still outsourcing, So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
hopefully that was helpful.
hopefully people got something out of this episode.
Like, okay, they're crazy. Bye. Unsubscribe. See you later.
That's
Unfollow.
okay. If you want to unfollow or unsubscribe, don't put it in the comments. It's okay. You don't have to waste your time.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll see you next week.